Hey everyone, welcome to February the 1st Bible reading. Pretty exciting. So, first of all, I want to congratulate you again on two things. First of all, spending an entire month digging into God's Word, and that's pretty amazing that you've been doing that. The second thing is congratulations on finishing up the book of Job. So, pretty incredible that we've worked our way through Genesis and through the book of Job. And now we are jumping into the book of Exodus. And so now, if you recall, we finished up the book of Genesis. Joseph has passed away. And now we're about 300 years later after Joseph has passed away. And so we're jumping back in now to find out what is happening with the Israelites, okay? It says, these are the names of the sons of Israel, that is Jacob, who moved to Egypt with their father, each with his family. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. In all, Jacob had 70 descendants in Egypt, including Joseph, who was already there. And in time, Joseph and all his brothers died, ending that entire generation. But their descendants, the Israelites, had many children and grandchildren. In fact, they multiplied so greatly that they became extremely powerful and filled the land. Eventually, a new king came to power in Egypt who knew nothing about Joseph or what he had done. He said to his people, "Look, the people of Israel now outnumber us and are stronger than we are. We must make a plan to keep them from growing even more. If we don't, and if war breaks out, they will join our enemies and fight against us. Then they will escape from the country." So the Egyptians made the Israelites their slaves. They appointed brutal slave drivers over them, hoping to wear them down with crushing labor. They forced them to build the cities of Pithom and Ramesses as supply centers for the kingdom. But the more the Egyptians oppressed them, the more the Israelites multiplied and spread, and the more alarmed the Egyptians became. So the Egyptians worked the people of Israel without mercy. They made their lives bitter, forcing them to mix mortar and make bricks and do all the work in the fields. They were ruthless in all their demands. Then Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, gave this order to the Hebrew midwives, Shiphrah and Puah. "When you help the Hebrew women as they give birth, watch as they deliver. If the baby is born is a boy, kill him. If it is a girl, let her live." But because the midwives feared God, they refused to obey the king's orders. They allowed the boys to live too. So the king of Egypt called for the midwives. "Why have you done this?" he demanded. "Why have you allowed the boys to live?" "The Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women," the midwives replied. "They are more vigorous and have their babies so quickly that we cannot get there in time." So God was good to the midwives, and the Israelites continued to multiply, growing more and more powerful. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people: "Throw every newborn Hebrew boy into the Nile River, but you may let the girls live." About this time, a man and woman from the tribe of Levi got married. The woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She saw that he was a special baby and kept him hidden for 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she got a basket made of papyrus reeds and waterproofed it with tar and pitch. She put the baby in the basket and laid it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile River. The baby's sister then stood at a distance, watching to see what would happen to him. Soon, Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe in the river, and her attendants walked along the riverbank. When the princess saw the basket among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it for her. When the princess opened it, she saw the baby. The little boy was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This must be one of the Hebrew children," she said. Then the baby's sister approached the princess. "Should I go and find one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" she asked. "Yes, do," the princess replied. So the girl went and called the baby's mother. "Take this baby and nurse him for me," the princess told the baby's mother. "I will pay you for your help." So the So the woman took her baby home and nursed him. Later, when the boy was older, his mother brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her own son. The princess named him Moses, for she explained, I lifted him out of the water. Many years later, when Moses had grown up, he went out to visit his own people, the Hebrews, and he saw how hard they were forced to work. During his visit, he saw an Egyptian beating one of his fellow Hebrews. After looking in all directions to make sure no one was watching, Moses killed the Egyptian and hid the body in the sand. And the next day, when Moses went out to visit his people again, he saw two Hebrew men fighting. Why are you beating up your friend? Moses said to the one who had started the fight. And the man replied, who appointed you to be our prince and judge? Are you going to kill me as you killed that Egyptian yesterday? And then Moses was afraid, thinking, everyone knows what I did. And surely enough, Pharaoh heard what had happened, and he tried to kill Moses. But Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in the land of Midian. And when Moses arrived in Midian, he sat down beside a well. And now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters who came as usual to draw water and fill the water troughs for their father's flocks. But some other shepherds came and chased them away. So Moses jumped up and rescued the girls from the shepherds, and then he drew water for their flocks. And when the girls returned to Reuel, their father, he asked, why are you back so soon today? An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds, they answered. And then he drew water for us and watered our flocks. Then where is he? Their father asked. Why did you leave him there? Invite him to come and eat with us. Moses accepted the invitation, and he settled there with him. And in time, Reuel gave Moses his daughter Zipporah to be his wife. Later, she gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, for he explained, I have been a foreigner in a foreign land. Years passed, and the king of Egypt died. But the Israelites continued to groan under their burden of slavery. They cried out for help, and their cries rose up to God. God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He looked down on the people of Israel and knew it was time to act. Okay, jump over to 1 Chronicles 6. It says the sons of Levi were Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The descendants of Kohath included Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzziel. The children of Amram were Aaron, Moses, and Miriam. Okay, back over to Exodus 3. One day Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock far into the wilderness and came to Sinai, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire from the middle of a bush. Moses stared in amazement. Though the bush was engulfed in flames, it didn't burn up. This is amazing, Moses said to himself. Why isn't that bush burning up? I must go see it. When the Lord saw Moses coming to take a closer look, God called to him from the middle of the bush, Moses, Moses. Here I am, Moses replied. Do not come any closer, the Lord warned. Take off your sandals, for you are standing on holy ground. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And when Moses heard this, he covered his face because he was afraid to look at God. Then the Lord told him, I've certainly seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. I've heard their cries of distress because of their harsh slave drivers. Yes, I'm aware of their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and to lead them out of Egypt into their own fertile and spacious land. It is a land flowing with milk and honey, the land where the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites now live. Look, the cry of the people of Israel has reached me, and I've seen how harshly the Egyptians abuse them. Now go, for I'm sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people Israel out of Egypt. But Moses protested to God, who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt? And God answered, I will be with you. And this is your sign that I am the one who has sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God at this very mountain." But Moses protested, "If I go to the people of Israel and tell them the God of your ancestors has sent me to you, they will ask me, 'What is his name?' And then what should I tell them?" God replied to Moses, "I am who I am. Say this to the people of Israel, 'I am has sent me to you.'" God also said to Moses, "Say this to the people of Israel, 'Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my eternal name, my name to remember for all generations. Now go and call together all the elders of Israel. Tell them, the Lord, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has appeared to me. He told me, I have been watching closely, and I see how the Egyptians are treating you. I have promised to rescue you from your oppression in Egypt. I will lead you to a land flowing with milk and honey, the land where the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites now live. The elders of Israel will accept your message. Then you and the elders must go to the king of Egypt and tell him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. So please let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God. But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand forces him. So I will raise my hand and strike the Egyptians, performing all kinds of miracles among them. Then at last he will let you go, and I will cause the Egyptians to look favorably on you. They will give you gifts when you go, so you will not leave empty-handed. Every Israelite woman will ask for articles of silver and gold and fine clothing from her Egyptian neighbors and from the foreign women in their houses. You will dress your sons and daughters with these, stripping the Egyptians of their wealth." But Moses protested again. "What if they won't believe me or listen to me? What if they say the Lord never appeared to you?" Then the Lord asked him, "What is that in your hand?" "A shepherd's staff," Moses replied. "Throw it down on the ground," the Lord told him. So Moses threw down the staff, and it turned into a snake. Moses jumped back. Then the Lord told him, "Reach out and grab its tail." So Moses reached out and grabbed it, and it turned back into a shepherd's staff in his hand. "Perform this sign," the Lord told him. "Then they will believe that the Lord, the God of their ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob really has appeared to you." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Now put your hand inside your cloak." So Moses put his hand inside his cloak, and when he took it out again, his hand was white as snow with a severe skin disease. "Now put your hand back into your cloak," the Lord said. So Moses put his hand back in, and when he took it out, again it was as healthy as the rest of his body. And the Lord said to Moses, "If they do not believe you and are not convinced by the first miraculous sign, they will be convinced by the second sign. And if they don't believe you or listen to you, even after these 2 signs, then take some water from the Nile River and pour it out on the dry ground. When you do, the water from the Nile will turn to blood on the ground." But Moses pleaded with the Lord, "O Lord, I'm not very good with words. I never have been, and I'm not now, even though you have spoken to me. I get tongue-tied and my words get tangled." And then the Lord asked Moses, "Who makes a person's mouth? Who decides whether people speak or do not speak? Hear or do not hear? See or do not see? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go. I will be with you as you speak, and I will instruct you in what to say." But Moses again pleaded, "Lord, please send anyone else." And then the Lord became angry with Moses. "All right," he said, "what about your brother Aaron the Levite? I know he speaks well, and look, he is on his way to meet you now. He will be delighted to see you. Talk to him and put the words in his mouth. I will be with both of you as you speak, and I will instruct you both in what to do. Aaron will be your spokesman to the people. He will be your mouthpiece, and you will stand in the place of God for him, telling him what to say. And take your shepherd's staff with you and use it to perform the miraculous signs I have shown you." Okay, so we now are kind of in the story where now the Israelites, they are being basically brought out of slavery. God has raised up Moses. Moses is about ready to go and to speak to Pharaoh and to deliver this incredible message to let God's people go. And so I want to make a couple points here for commentary. The first is about the midwives. Back when Moses when Moses' mother gave birth to him, the midwives made a really a bold decision that they were not going to kill the boys who were born, and by doing that, in defying the the law that the Pharaoh gave, or the order that the Pharaoh gave, they were taking their lives into their hands. I'm sure they probably suspected or expected that when they were called before Pharaoh that they were probably going to be executed for not having complied with him. And so when he calls them, they give some kind of excuse of like, hey, the Hebrew wives are they're strong, and they give birth before we can even show up. They really don't need us, and so they got away with it, and the Lord blessed them. And the reason the Lord blessed them was because they were faithful to him. It says they feared God, and so they feared God more than what they feared man. And how important that is for us to make sure that we fear God more than what we fear man. And I believe that the fear of man is very strong today in people's lives. I believe that the fear of man is strong, especially even in the church today, and that God would have an awakening happen where we would begin to really fear God in a healthy way. And what I mean by that is that we would rather please God than please man. We would rather disappoint man than disappointing God. And so something to consider, as we're called to live out our faith. We're called to talk about our faith. We're called to be, on the offense, not on the defense when we're sharing our faith. And so I believe that a healthy fear of God, and again, that's making sure that we are, it's okay to disappoint people. Let's not disappoint God. Let's please God. And if that means making some people, displeasing some people, then so be it. But we've got to put God first in our lives, in everything that we do. Second thing I want to point out here is just the incredible reality of how God really protected Moses. Moses is floating down the river, and Pharaoh's own daughter finds this baby floating along. They had given the edict. Now here's another really crazy thing that has happened. So the reason Moses is floating down the river is notice in verse 22, Pharaoh gave this order not just to the soldiers to kill all of the boys. He gave the Pharaoh to all his people. In other words, everyone, every soldier, every citizen that saw a baby boy, they were supposed to execute it. We're talking genocide on a high level that floated down into the common people, would have been killing these baby boys. And so it was a serious moment in the life of the Israelites, tragic moment, if you will. And so I think that's something to again look at, this reality of just wicked men in power making decisions for fear of other people, for fear of an uprising. And so instead of dealing with it in different ways or constructive ways, this Pharaoh decides that he's going to murder babies. We have even today, an epidemic of babies who are murdered at the hands of people, um, for multiple reasons that society puts forward. But God God sees that, and God cares about people. He cares about children. He cares about every person that He's given life to, and we should as well. Okay, so and then Moses has this burning bush. Now later on, years later, Moses grows up, and God speaks to Moses and tells him that He has seen the suffering of His people, and God does this in appearing in a burning bush to Moses. Really incredible, and it's an interesting thing where Moses asks him the question when God says, "Go to Pharaoh and tell him to let my people go, and call the elders of Israel to go with you." Now, notice he's not supposed to go alone. Notice he says, "You must lead my people out. Go and have the elders go with you as well, to speak to Pharaoh." And when he does that, Moses says, "Well, who do I tell him? What is his name? When I go to talk to Israel, and they ask what is his name?" The reason that he asks that is because he's coming out of, and this is something that's going to we're going to see is an issue for the Israelites going forward. They had been 300-400 years in Egypt. Okay, they had been influenced by Egypt, by a polytheistic society, a society that had multiple gods. And so when Moses is coming and trying to convey this message, he himself is trying at this point to determine, okay, what do I say is the name of God in the midst of this, all of these polytheistic beliefs, multiple gods, many gods, and God gives him this clear instruction to say, well, you just tell them, I am that I am. I am. There is no other God. I am God. And so he's being very clear here. He said, anything else, you got to understand, I'm not one among equals when it comes to this idea of gods. I am God. All the rest are false gods, and they will struggle with that for a long time because they've been influenced again by the society that they lived in. Again, I think that it's something that we need to be aware of, is this reality of living in a society that wants to embrace many paths, or many people would say there are many paths to the one God, but it's all the same God. And I would say, no, first of all, there's not many paths and there's not multiple gods. There's one God who is God and Lord over all. And Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one gets to the Father but by me. And so it's important for us to see kind of these things that are taking shape, because it's going to influence the Israelites for many years going forward. And you're going to see this very issue of polytheism is going to plague the Israelites, and is really going to be a stumbling block to them. And we'll see how that develops as we read through the rest of Exodus and through the rest of the Old Testament. Okay? Well, thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you back here tomorrow as we continue in the book of Exodus.